Hey guys, this is Jeff McClinsky of Strange Machine Games. I'm the writer of Charm, along with numerous other writers for Scenario, which Charm includes 7 scenarios that modify the standard rule set. This is a character building tutorial that goes over the standard rule set, and I want to take you through that so you can learn how to build characters. Charm can build characters in just a couple minutes, and they're fun and easy to make. They can do quite a bit. So, without further delay. So I have 2 character sheets here, actually, and I'm doing that just so we can build a couple different characters, see how they play. We said we can build characters pretty quickly, so it shouldn't really matter too much about each individual one here, but we do have some parameters that we have to talk about first. So before you play a Charm game, you have to talk with the other players and the GM about the genre you want to play and about the world. Now, this could be something you made up, this could be something you read about. It doesn't really matter. You just really want to everyone have a good understanding for what the world is. In this case, fantasy is pretty easy for everyone to understand, so we'll just make some fantasy characters. Now, the next thing you have to do is choose your power level. How powerful are your characters in this world as it relates to everybody else in the world? So power level 1 is mundane. If you're just like a guy, a teacher, a lawyer, a policeman, a firefighter, a librarian, you're playing at the mundane level. Okay? Enhanced would be you're a little more powerful than everybody else around you. Maybe you've been specially trained, you're smarter, maybe you have some very minor abilities. And then as those power levels increase, you become more powerful than the world around you. And that's the other thing you have to sort of determine, how powerful are you going to be in this world. So as you level, you will get more powerful, and you will start becoming able to do more things. Okay. So in this case, we chose fantasy genre, and our power level is enhanced. So we're going to be more powerful than the standard knight or the standard peasant, but maybe less powerful than like a really big, frightening troll, something like that. Yeah. So I'm going to make 2 fantasy characters here. I'm going to start with the first character. We're going to just go with something easy. We call him Warrior Bob. Okay, he's a warrior. Yay. Okay, and the other character we have is going to be Wizard Jen. Now, Warrior Bob and Wizard Jen, they can do anything warriors and wizards can do. We know what warriors can do. We know what wizards can do, at least for the most part. And if there are a few things we're not sure about, we have discussions with the other players and the GM to kind of figure that out. Warriors, they attack with weapons. They're hardy. Wizards, maybe not so hardy. And they attack with spells and know arcana. Warriors know about gear and equipment, things like that. You obviously want to save some room for other characters like rogues or face type characters that do that interact socially with the world. Okay. But now we get to have the real fun, the archetype. The archetype kind of tells us how a warrior's going to act. And in this case, I could put something simple like warrior, which is kind of boring, or barbarian, which is a little less boring, but still pretty boring. I mean, a lot of games do barbarians. Why not just do something really cool, like a stone fighter of Call. So, Call, I mean, like, that's a region in this world, right? You know what this world is because you designed it, or you came up with the background of what Call is. So you can do anything a stone fighter of Call can do. So you get the warrior stuff, and you get the special stone fighter of Call. For Wizard Chen, we're going to do something pretty simple. We're going to go with elementalist. Right? So she can do all the stuff the wizards can do, but she's especially good at controlling and manipulating and using the elements to attack with. Okay? Now, you notice that there's a checkbox there, and that checkbox is so that if you fail a roll, you can check that box to automatically pass the roll at a minimum success. It doesn't matter what it is. As long as you are doing something within your archetype, right? So as long as you are doing something warrior-ish, and as long as Wizard Jen here is doing something caster-ish, more or less, more attributed to being an elementalist. Okay, nature. So nature also provides a checkbox. When you're acting within your nature, you can choose to check that box and automatically pass the check at a minimum value. So in this case, our nature for Warrior Bob will make him steadfast, because that's a very stone-like thing, right? Like a steadfast warrior. And for Jen, elementalist, the elements are kind of, you know, torrential. So we will go with voracious. We'll go with brash. Yeah. So these checkboxes will replenish with rest as per the GM, you know, that determines the end of an arc or a game session. Okay. So now we have aspects. Aspects are what separate two different stone warriors of call, right? So if we had Warrior Bob and Warrior Jen, and we were both stone, and they were both stone fighters of call, then the aspects would actually sort of separate them out. So you're already good at, Warrior Bob's already good at doing warrior stuff. His checks for warrior stuff will be lower, and Wizard Jen's already good at being a wizard. Her checks for wizard stuff will be lower, and her checks for elementalist stuff will be lower, and his stuff for stone fighting Akel will be lower. And then we can add aspects. So in this case, we're going to give him Fortitude. Fortitude, that's his most outstanding aspect. And he can use 4 points of Fortitude at first level. Now, at second level, you get a fourth aspect at 1 point, and each of these goes up by 1, so you get an additional 4 points. And at third level, you get another new aspect, and everything also goes up by 1 point, so you get another 5 points. And that keeps on accelerating. Okay? So you can spend an aspect point to enact Fortitude. You can create a feat, or you can use it to re-roll. So for example, if you don't like the result you got on your die 20 or your die 6, you could re-roll one or both of them by spending a Fortitude point. So if you fail a check, or your check isn't as good as you want it to be, you can re-roll. You can also do a Fortitude attack, or enact a power. So let's say somebody with a sword was hitting Warrior Bob, and he's like, I'm a stone warrior call, I'm going to turn my body into stone, I want to break that sword. The GM's like, great. Spend a Fortitude point, that's like enacting a power, and if you roll well enough when you do it, that sword, when it hits you, won't do any damage, it'll break. Or it might do a little bit of damage and break. It kind of depends on what the roll ends up being. Okay. For another aspect, we might do, for example, here, religious lore, right? So he knows all kinds of stuff about religion and lore, and that's a specialty he has. So that would be, he knows rituals, anything that has to do with religious lore he would know. Now, he's also not a priest, but maybe he's maybe all stone fighter call are like paladins or something like that. So he's part of this religious cult. He has information, and I mean, if you wanted to give him magic, all you have to do is say religious magic. Now he has magic. So once again, it kind of depends on how much overlap you want to have. His religious magic might be weaker than a full-blown out priest. Yeah. Now, for his last aspect, we're going to give him stone gear. So he can turn his gear into stone, he can make stone gear, he can repair it. Maybe if he grabs stuff, he can turn it into stone. Whatever. He's standing on a rocky cliff, and he wants to create a stone axe. He touches the cliff, and boom, an axe appears. All right. Once again, you do that, you'd spend your point, and you would get your stone gear. So this is kind of cool, right? Sounds kind of fun to play this. You can change these up a little bit, and take new things if you like. All right. So for Warrior Jen, she's an elementalist. So we're going to just do something a little different. Okay. Now, she already knows how to cast, but we want to make her an elementalist. So I'm giving her fire, water, and air. Now, she can still throw magic missiles. That's kind of what wizards do. Shoot a bow or something like that, or crossbow. But in this case, if you want to do something that's like, if you want to make like a fire elemental appear out of nowhere, you got to spend some points to do that. Now, at first level, you can only spend 1 point. But for every level you attain, you can spend 1 point, additional point per level. So at level 2, you can spend 2 points to make one effect, and at level 3 and so on, you could spend 3 points to make an effect. So let's say she wanted to make a fire dragon elemental. The GM might be like, well, that's 4 points. That's going to take all your points, but you have to be 4th level to do that. So, but let's say she wants to do like a little fireball, right? Maybe that's 1 point or 2. Depends on how big or powerful she wants it to be. By spending all your points, you lose them very quickly. For example, water, she could create maybe like an ice dome to protect her and her friends. A small dome, like a small wall, might cost 1 point to do, whereas a larger big dome effect might cost 2 or 3 or 4. So also, for example, let's say she wants to attack somebody. So she throws her magic missile and she misses. She spent a point to reroll by saying, "Oh, that was like a flame dart or like a flame whip attack or something like that." In which case, by spending the point in the fictional positioning, you get a chance to re-roll that because you are powerful at using fire, elementalist. Yeah. Now, in Charm, you roll a die 20 and a die 6, and what you're trying to do is achieve at least a check value that the GM provides to you. Trivial checks are at 0. If it's trivial, it's easy. You don't have to worry about. It's super easy. You don't have to worry about rolling. Easy checks are at 3. Moderate or at 6. So really most of your checks should be between 3 and 9. Now these are the actual values the GM will tell you need to have. If it's a known check. Unknown checks you just roll and you hope for the best. But in this case, for example, the GM will be like, okay, well that's hard, you need a 9 or astonishing 12. You never need a 10 or 11. Okay. So in this case you would roll both your dice. You roll your die 20 if you're going for, let's say you're going for 9, and let's say you get 5 and a die 6. Here you get 5. So what you can do is you can actually spend one of your points to add this 5 into the 20. I'm sorry, you can add this 5 into the other 5 and get a total of 10. So in this case, you fail the check because you only look at the 20. Your score is a 5. But if you're saying, well, I'm using a fire attack, boom, now you can add these together and you can pass the check. So you may, if you're rolling poorly or rolling really well, you may choose to do different things. So for example, if I hit my my target right where I want it, I'm at 0 levels of success, right? So if I roll a 9, a 10, or 11, I have my hard success met. But if I roll a 12, I'm at +1 level enhanced, which is enhanced. And if I roll 15, I'm at a cinematic, +2 levels, and at 18, I would be at a triumph. So these things enable the player to interact with the world based on the fictional positioning. So for example, let's say Wizard Jen wants to shoot a lightning bolt that zaps a whole bunch of people that are really close together, right? So she's going to roll, and she gets something like this, okay? Now she failed her roll, and in fact, the GM said, well, you need a 12, okay? And she got basically a 2. She could even actually add this up. She can't add this up to a 4, right? Because at first level, she already spent her point. She can only spend 1 point per thing, so she can't spend another point at first level. So she's stuck with this roll by doing this ability. Well, a total of a 2 is really bad. So let's see, she got a 2. You're down under easy, so 1, 2, 3, 4. It's 4 levels below. So we check what that means in our chart here, and we say that that's a fumble. So a fumble could mean that Wizard Jen zaps her own brain and loses her memory of how to cast or forgets her friends. It could be she damages herself. It could be that she burns up a piece of gear on her body, something valuable. It could be that she loses some positioning. People around her make fun of her in the world, causing damage. Basically, the GM can take whatever move he wants against the players in a very like Apocalypse World kind of like style. If she rolled a little more, let's say rolled like a 5, right? So she's now here at easy. She needed a 12. Oh, I'm sorry, let's say she rolled this a little more. Let's say like a 6. Okay. So now she's 1, 2. She's 2 levels of, that's a failure. It just doesn't work. You get nothing out of it. It doesn't work. And in fact, you can't do the same thing again. So she went to lightning bolt those people. It doesn't work for whatever reason. The GM can narrate that the spell fizzles, or the people are just immune to the effect. Therefore, you can't do that again. All right, well, let's go to if she gets a 9. That's a compromise. So you get a little bit of something. It might do a little bit of damage, but you also may take a little bit of damage, or it doesn't quite do what you want it to do. And the GM may give you the option to sort of narrate what happens, what that actually means or not. So as you go up, Enhanced gives you a little bit of a benefit on the effect, and Cinematic gives you a lot. So let's say she needed a 12, got 2 levels up, she rolls an 18. At a Cinematic, she could say that they all get blown back and they're on their backs, they drop their weapons burn up. I mean, anything like that can really add the story. She can even say, hey, some valuable, note falls out of their pocket, and now that adds something into the world that the GM can provide to the players. So the players have a lot of agency based on how they roll. So there's a lot of impetus to really roll high. But to do that, you have to spend your points to re-roll. And that's basically it. We made 2 characters in a couple minutes here. We went over all the rules, rolling, creating effects, and that's Charm for you. So it's a super fun game to play. There's a lot of back and forth between the GM and the players, a lot of interacting with visual positioning of the world, and there's a lot of opportunity for the players to add to the story. So while it is plays fairly like a standard sort of simulation game, there are a lot of elements to grab onto. What's great is you can put your character sheet in your wallet. You can carry it wherever you want. You can, and you just use a rolling app on your phone to roll the die 20 and the die 6. So I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Once again, this is Jeff with Strange Machine Games. Hope that you get a chance to check out the Charm Kickstarter. It's going live on October 2nd, 2019. So just a few days away. And we're really excited for it. We already have a few books lined up using the Charm system that'll expand the universe. And scenarios actually alter the rules as well. So in some scenarios, you get a list of aspects that you can choose from, and they do very specific curated kind of things, more like written out feats in like D&D or a different game like that. But yeah, in this game, you can just kind of create what you want based on the limitations of your character. It works really well. So please check out the Kickstarter and check out strangemachinegames.com. We always have new stuff coming up, and we have new RPGs and new board games all the time.